Pro podcast, where we are going to be giving you some exciting, wonderful news. Today, I have a very special guest, and she is in the industry of health, fitness, and meditation. She has been working in that field for 30 years. But here, I want to make sure you guys understand what we stand for here at YouGoin'Pro podcast. We help athletes develop proficiency and assisting them in their passion for the game they love. And Cathy is such an art in this industry. She's going to go over some things that, hey, why aren't you in shape? Why you don't meditate enough? And most importantly, why we don't stretch? So, Cathy, how are you doing? This is Coach Laurie. How are you?
Hi, Coach. How are you?
I am doing
um,
very, very good. I want to make sure that I didn't forget anything. I know it was a little quick, but I want to make sure that if you can go over anything else that I might have missed, please,
well,
please go over it.
um, just the nutrition piece, but I'll talk about that when you start asking me some questions because I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'm really happy to be on You Going Pro. Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. I also, we're going to start, let's just get right to it.
All
My
right.
very first question, and, because everyone thinks that fitness is hitting the weights, going to the weight room, and lifting weights and throwing weights up. But for you, I want to ask you this question. What is the definition in 30 years of experience? What is your definition of wellness?
Well, it kind of took me 30 years to get here. My definition of wellness was very different in the early days of my career. Now the definition is self-care, evaluating what you need on a daily basis. So that's going to change. That's going to change every day. So what do you need today? Maybe today you need to take a rest, or maybe today you need to do some meditation because maybe your mental health is not where you want it to be. Or maybe wellness is just paying attention and having some healthy food because maybe you're not feeling energetic enough.
Wow, that's you've answered like several questions in one question. So I'm going to
I'll
have
probably do
to.
that.
So, Cathy, so let me ask you this question. So, what's the best way to prepare for a wellness lifestyle? Okay, let's just break it down because wellness to some people is different from your true definition of wellness.
Right.
So,
Well,
break it down.
I like to keep it simple. I think the industry tries to make it really complicated, so that turns people away. So just prepare for, I always coach people and encourage people to do some form of exercise first thing in the morning. So maybe that's a walk. My husband and I walk every morning. We call it the meeting. So we take our morning walk. So maybe it's a walk. Maybe you do 15 minutes of yoga. Maybe you do some stretching. Another really available form of wellness to set yourself up is, now we know we can take 10-minute, we call it wellness snacks or fitness snacks. 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. Maybe you feel like you're sitting too much at your job. So get up, go walk and talk to your coworker, move around, stretch, walk on your lunch break. It's too hot outside, go walk in the mall. Window shopping is great. I have a rule: if you're going to walk in the mall, you can't spend any money. You have to come back later and spend the money. You're there to exercise, not shop.
Wow.
So just making it available, easy for you, and make sure it's something you enjoy, because if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to keep up with it.
Right.
And yes, we definitely have to add some strength as we age, but that doesn't mean it has to be weights. It could be Pilates, it could be doing wall push-ups, it could be just doing some squats. I had a participant in one of my diabetes prevention classes. She said every time at work that she would use the restroom, she would go in the restroom and do some wall push-ups and do some squats because that was the only place where people would leave her alone. So she did
Wow.
that all day, and it really helped her get in better shape.
So you said, oh, that was very very good. So let me just, this is not even on the spectrum of the questions I want to ask, but let me ask you this question because you just brought up something I thought about. So for the people that say they don't have time to work out, let's just break this one
Yes.
down. For the people that say they don't have to, and the money, I don't have time, I don't have money, and I have kids. So let's just break that down. So for people that don't have time, money, and kids, what would you suggest them to do?
Well, how old are the kids? If you have little kids, you could pick them up and do some bicep curls with them. we, I, I used to attend a mommy and me class when my son was an infant, and
Okay.
we did all kinds of stuff with the babies. We used to hold the babies and do squats with them, and we would lift them up and down in the air, do some do some shoulder work with the babies, and it's nice. I used to take my son for 6 mile walks in the stroller, and then guess what? He would sleep, and he'd get fresh air, come back, he takes a nap. So
Mhm.
it gave me more time. Just trying to fit it in. If you take your kids to the playground, run around with them, hang from the monkey bars. If you, I have a coworker that has to take her high schooler to soccer practice. So instead of sitting in the bleachers, she walks around the park while he's playing soccer.
Wow, that's
So
good. That's
just creative ways to fit it in. Maybe you need somebody to hold you accountable, get a workout buddy,
mhm,
and then you have that appointment with that person. You don't want to let them down, so you'll show up. But
mhm.
you can always fit it in. That's why I say, get up earlier, try to fit it something in the morning, so at least you accomplish that.
Okay. So,
And
Kathy,
then
with
you'll
that,
get results, and that'll be motivational for you.
I think what you said is basically don't make excuses.
Don't make excuses.
It's
We're
just don't
so
make
good at making
excuses.
excuses. I make them too. I'm
Uh,
not perfect.
we do, and I know family members. I won't say no names, but I know family members that always say they don't have time. But with that, you make time for what's important. Think about it.
Sure. Sure.
Am I right or wrong? Because think about it.
Yes.
You can be butt tired and don't want to do nothing, Kathy. Nothing. And then all of a sudden you get a phone call and say, "Hey, by the way, hey Kathy, you got some inheritance over here. Someone's dropping you off a check. Could you come get it?" You hop you hop
So,
you
but
am I,
but you know what, Seville? I'm glad you brought that up because fitness is like that too. I remember back when I was teaching aerobics, and I never liked to teach class at night, but sometimes I would go, and I would drag myself there. But guess what? Once you get going, you get energized. So that's the
right.
thing. You might be tired, but get out, take a walk, do something, move around a little bit, and you'll get that energy back.
You do, and you do, and I know that because I mean, there's many times that I don't want to go work out and I don't want to do nothing. But also with that working out, which you will agree is sometimes it's just mental. It's just a
Sure,
mental break for me.
sure.
After you go through your everyday mundane working, hustling, doing everything that you do for your family, for yourself, you have to have some me time. And
Yep,
believe it or not, when I go work out, I believe that that's my me time because that's the only time I'm not thinking about work, and I'm most likely not thinking about the wife or the family. And I do think about the family, but it's not as on me as much. Would that be more?
right,
Let me more to
sure.
say because like I'm like this is my time, and I have to. I mean, I try to tell people when I'm a personal trainer, but I also try to tell people if you can just do 30 minutes a day. It doesn't have to be 30 minutes. If
Absolutely.
it don't have to be 30 minutes all at once, it can be 10 minutes when I wake up, 10 minutes when I go to sleep. That's 20 minutes already.
Sure.
And then somehow in the middle of the day when you're taking a break, you can figure out how to do another 10 minutes. So that's just something that I would think
Absolutely.
about.
Fitting it in. And that for me, that me time is definitely taking a yoga class. So I call my friend, we've been friends for years, and she goes with me. So that way I don't talk myself out of driving to the yoga studio because it's a little bit of a drive, the studio we like. So if I know I got to pick her up, we're going.
Correct. Correct. So basically, like you said, is accountable. Your accountability partner, and you're gonna make sure it's always two is better than one. Two is always better
Yes.
than one. Always, because
I,
somehow, some way, someone's gonna go.
I say safety in numbers.
I like that. That's like that. And which that brings me to the very very wonderful question for the athletes. How do you get a former athlete to get back into the lifestyle of playing those playing days when they're all over? So, for example, let's talk about that. I'm an athlete, former athlete. You got guys that are athletes, and women are athletes, but they kind of fell off the barrel a little bit and just kind of let themselves go. What do you suggest for them to get back into that wellness, fitness, mental aspect again?
That's such a great question because the motivation for so many athletes is the competitive part, but maybe now the competitive part is gone. So now
Correct.
you're going to have to compete with yourself. So team sports are a little different because you were competing with the team. I come from the background of individual sports where you're competing with yourself. But if you're a former athlete and you don't have the team anymore, you can either create a team, right? Get that person that's going to hold you accountable, or you can start competing with yourself and just set some goals that are achievable, right? Easy, smart goals, which means simple, motivational, accountable, like you're going to meet those goals, right? Achievable.
Right.
So again, try to do something in the morning and just you're going to have to be kind to yourself and take baby steps to get there. It's just different now,
Right.
right? You're not an athlete anymore, but you're still probably going to enjoy some type of physical activity. So just figuring out what that is for you now, what that change is for you, and trying to just do one day at a time and make it happen.
Right. Because I am one that was in that situation, which I played baseball. And when I got out of college, I had that problem. So I know if I had that problem, there's millions of other young boys or young men and young women that had that problem. And it was hard. I mean, Kathy, it was it because I felt, well,
Sure.
I said, well, I'm not playing ball anymore, so whatever. So what I had to do is I had to play a mental game with myself. I said, now this is for me. It's just for me. I don't want to get fat, which I'm not going to get fat anyway because my genetics, but I don't want to look sloppy. But after so long of playing a sport, being competitive from the age of 10, some people start earlier than I did, all the way till you get to a senior in college. That's a lot of years of playing a sport, a team sport. And so
Sure.
I had to play this mind game. It was so challenging. I'm like, well, I don't have a goal now, which
Right.
that leads us to the next thing, how do you have goals when you're so used to that team atmosphere? What would you suggest?
So just setting new goals. So maybe, like you said, your goal was you didn't want to look sloppy. Everybody can find a goal. Maybe I want to eat healthier, or maybe I want to hang on to my muscle mass,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe as you get older, maybe I'm feeling like when I sit down too much, I get super stiff, or maybe my posture is not as good as it used to
Yeah,
be. So
you're
just
right.
really thinking about what you want to do. Maybe I just like to walk in nature. Maybe I'm sitting in front of screens too much and I need to get outside.
Yes, you're 100% on that because I'm on the computer all the time for hours, and my eyes will start hurting, my back will start hurting because you're sitting in one spot, and when your body is so used to moving and making things happen and extras, and all your muscles are always doing something, and so then when you start to your body kind of like decompress and stays in one stationary place, it's an adjustment. And then people like to say, "Well, you're getting old." I said, "No, I don't necessarily. I may be getting old, but the body is so used to moving. The body is made to
Sure,
move."
sure.
So which that brings me to the next question. So, Kathy, can you share a testimony of anyone that you have worked with, a couple testimony with people that have started with ground zero to
Yeah,
success?
yeah. Well, what I have been dealing with a lot lately, and it doesn't really matter the age, it's like all ages, people usually seek me out when they're in pain. So they hurt their back or they have sciatica or something like that. I've had so many people with low back pain, so they're afraid to exercise, or they
Wow.
tell me things like my doctor told me not to exercise, which makes me crazy because that's like the opposite of what they really need. But I think it's a situation where the doctor doesn't want to take on a liability.
Correct.
So I had a client that was coming to me faithfully for a few years, and then of course COVID happened, so she stopped coming, and then she started experiencing pretty severe sciatica pain, and it was so bad that she didn't want to come back to me because she thought that it would be detrimental. So she actually went to physical therapy and it wasn't helping her that much. So then she decided to come back to me, and I was able to help her alleviate the sciatica just because I educated her on the fact it's not enough to come to me 1 or 2 days a week. You
Right.
have to be doing your own maintenance at home.
Mm.
So you and I have been talking on the side about the flexibility piece. So I gave her a bunch of stretches. You have to do these stretches every day or you're going to have problems with that sciatica.
You're right. I'm glad you said that because let's be honest, 90% of the people in the world do not like stretching and
No, they don't want to
flexibility.
stretch. They don't want to
Nobody.
stretch. I was a collegiate distance runner, and I always liked stretching because I'm flexible, so I was good at it. But the whole boys team did everything they could not to stretch.
Right. I don't understand
They
why
would go just take off running because they didn't want to stretch.
we just, I mean, I don't know what it is. I mean, but that's not just in your sport. That's in every sport, I think,
Yeah, yeah,
because I know for sure baseball players, they hate stretching. Football players, they just go out there. Rawr.
yeah,
Basketball
yeah.
players. Now, I coached basketball for several years, and I do remember us doing, we hitting suicides, hitting the line, running, stretch. So it's kind of like a dynamic workout because you're moving your arms and your legs. But for the most part, in every sport I know at every level, most athletes do not like stretching. I don't know why we don't like stretching. It's like a bad necessity that we need to have.
Yeah, yeah, it's so true. And I don't know, I guess we just have to get better educating folks on how, strength and flexibility help to prevent injury,
Yes,
right?
it
And
does.
if you're more flexible too, you're probably going to be a better performer.
Correct, correct. And your quick twitch muscles are going to be a whole lot better than your
Hmm.
slow twitch muscles. Which that brings me to the next definition. I'm sorry, the next question. So, we've talked about the first thing we talked about wellness, flexibility. Let's talk about one of the things that most people do not talk about besides flexibility is meditation.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that is
So,
something that is
yeah.
so because this is something I know for sure. Let's just think about what I'm about to say. Yeah, open mind. We always thinking about something. Always. We're always thinking about something. And we're always thinking about something too long. Am,
Or
am I
what's
right or wrong?
next?
Oh,
Or what's
correct.
next?
So if we can learn to teach ourselves, it's always a thought in your head, but what kind of thought is it? So if we learn to think on good things, things that are pure, just, lovely, you know, things that are progressive, that's going to make us better as a human being to society. And so let me give you an example. I do meditate. I don't meditate as much as I should, but I do meditate more now that I'm older. Like right now they always say, what's the word they always say? You've got to have all ADHD and all of that. I've never heard that before until later because we never talked about that when I was a little boy. It was just like, hey, you got to probably get yourself together.
Right,
Just get
right.
yourself
You
together.
had no choice.
You
You
got
had
no
no
choice.
choice.
But now we have made it such a academic for most people. Well, just because you can't do certain things, and sometimes that's the situation. But for the most part, meditation is something you have to teach yourself. You have to learn how to. It has to be a learned behavior. Would you agree or disagree?
For adults, yes. Kids, no. Because I feel people come to me often and ask me, oh, it must be hard to teach kids. I go, no, they're way better at it than we are because they don't have all the responsibilities that we have. So it's super easy for them. They're creative, they got a good imagination, and basically being mindful meditation is paying attention. So on one thing, hopefully,
Correct.
but that's
Correct.
really hard for us to do. And you can make anything a meditation. You could be sweeping a floor and that could be a meditation. Or you could be washing dishes and just be all in with what you're doing.
Correct.
But
So
thankfully, with meditation, right? LeBron James is doing it. If you watch the Olympics, all those high elite athletes are visualizing,
correct.
going through their sport and winning,
Correct.
and so that's great. So it's at least now it's getting so much positive press. Like previously, it was just something that the hippies did,
Correct.
or yogis did. It wasn't something that was mainstream. So now it's quite mainstream.
Right.
And we can look at brain scans now too to see how a brain on meditation looks.
Wow. That's powerful with it itself because if you think about it, you were an athlete. You said you was an athlete. So if you was running long distance before you ran, let me ask you this question: I'm a coach. You thought about that race before you ran,
Sure.
and you thought about
Sure.
you thought, well, how am I going to run? Is it going to be successful? Am I going to make sure I get all my form, my technique? You were meditating. We just didn't talk
Yeah,
about it. We didn't
yeah,
talk about it.
exactly. Oh, especially runners, like we say, runners high, and you're all in when you're running. You're all in because you're in pain. You're trying to block out that pain. You're trying to just, get through it.
Get through it, and that's what I'm saying because I've learned that and there's some things that I said you think whatever you think on you can become it. Now, does it say it's going to happen all the time? But you got a better success rate if you continue to meditate on good things than bad things. If you think about it, because you said they do a CAT scan on your brain and things of that nature. I never thought about that before, but if you think about that, how do you think dreams happen? Dreams are the same way. It's a form of meditation, but it's in a totally different realm because we're asleep. So because our brain never really stops. Would you
Right,
agree?
exactly,
It
exactly.
never
We used to
really
think our
stops.
brain stopped when we were sleeping, but it doesn't.
It doesn't stop because I mean, I'm laughing. My wife says I talk in my sleep sometimes, and I'm talking about let's run this play or let's hit the ball this way or run this way, and I never thought about it until when you get so passionate about what you do, and it never stops. It's still a form of meditation. It's just
Yeah, yeah,
how
because
you
that's what you're honing in on.
correct, and I'm passionate about it. So that's why I wanted to make sure that you break it down how important meditation is. So, what would you? How do you think? How can someone that never meditated? What would be some of the techniques you would tell them?
Well, you can take a minute, just 1 minute. So bringing your attention to your breath, just taking it, like no one ever taught us how to breathe, right? We just breathe. And no
Correct.
one ever taught us how to listen either.
No.
Right? Right? We're not really taught how to listen or breathe. So taking a deep belly breath, like in through your nose, filling your belly up with air, and then exhaling through your mouth or your nose, and really paying attention to the quality of that breath and how you feel while you're doing it. So guess what? If you take 5 deep breaths, that's about a minute. And if you take 5 deep breaths, it can shift your mood. So
Really?
that's all it takes. Super simple, right? This is another area that we try to complicate.
So you say take 5 deep
Five deep
breaths.
breaths is about a minute. Nice, slow, deep breaths. And then that can shift your mood.
Oh,
And then guess what? The more you practice it, you'll get to the point where you'll just take 1 deep breath
right.
and you'll feel nice and relaxed.
It becomes a lifestyle, so you don't have to
And
think about
again,
it.
if you don't have time, I know you're driving your car. When you get to a red light, you can take a few breaths, but don't close. I would say don't close your eyes. You leave your eyes open and take some deep breaths. And it also help you with people who are driving crazy. It won't bother you as much.
That's really good, Kathy. So, with that being said, now that we discussed wellness, fitness, flexibility, meditation, from your experience, what do you think would be a blueprint to success? I mean, kind of break it down, sum it all up. So what would be the first step for someone, an athlete or a non-athlete? Let's talk about wellness. Let's break it down really quick. Synopsis. Wellness. What should we do first? Wellness.
I think I say walking because anybody could do it. It could be done anywhere, walking. And then you can add a lot of things to the walking.
Okay. Walking. All right.
Walk.
Now let's talk about fitness. So fitness. What do you suggest for fitness?
So you're right, because I'm gonna talk to you like you don't want to go to a gym. So you don't want to. So if you're walking, right, you can add some lunges, squats to the walking. You can add some sidestepping, right, some karaoke's from baseball. You can incorporate some strength moves by, doing some planks or wall push-ups or anything like that.
Okay.
Like when you come back, you can stretch, you can meditate. You
Which we
can
talk.
meditate while you're walking. There's meditative walking.
Right, and flexibility. Talk about stretching. So, when should we stretch?
Flexibility.
When should we do stretching? Make sure they understand. When should we do
Yeah.
flexibility? When?
So So you don't want to like get out of bed and start stretching. You want to move around a little bit. But of course, it depends on what kind of stretching you're doing. If you want to just stretch your arms up in the sky, you could do that. Just reach your arms behind your back, interlace your fingers, stretch your chest that way. Everybody thinks stretch me is I'm going to bend down and I can't touch my toes. A yoga teacher said this one day in class, and I said, she's not wrong. She said, we never told you you had to keep your legs straight. So you can get a nice hamstring stretch by keeping your knees soft, because we don't want you to rupture a hamstring. So you can do all kinds of stretching standing up. You can just look up to the sky and arch your back a little bit. That's a nice back stretch. You can balance on one leg and hug one of your knees, so that'll give you a hip stretch. If you're sitting in a chair, you can cross one ankle over your knee and just lean forward a little bit. That's going to get your glutes, your seat, which a lot of people have trouble in that area. And then another area of concern is the upper body and tech neck, because our head's going forward from staring at screens. So that's why I really like that, bringing your hands behind your back and interlacing your fingers or holding onto your wrists. There you go. So you get these shoulders to come back and not like rounded, right? Or even just standing up and turning your palms forward is going to help you stand up straighter.
Wow, I'm actually.
And I'll tell you a secret. When you stand up straighter, it looks like you lost weight. People will ask you, did you get taller? Did you lose weight? Because you're holding your posture better, so you look more fit.
But we have to do it every day.
Every day, a little something every day. It could be 10 minutes, just something every day, some type of movement. But there's also an opportunity when you're watching TV to get up and move, stretch. I know we don't have commercials as much anymore because we're streaming. So, okay, if you're watching a series and when that one episode ends, get up and move around and then go from there. I know we don't have commercials as much anymore because we're streaming.
You're right, because this is not part of the show, but I'm going to throw this one out here, because when me and my wife go out to dinner, every time we go out to dinner, it's once a week, we have date night. Every time we eat, we go walk.
Oh, that's great. That's great. That's very European.
Oh, it is. I was like, listen, we want to go walk. It's just something about it when you have a nice meal with your companion, your loved one, and you're like, okay, this is not an opportunity we're gonna have all the time, but we do it once a week because of work schedule, and we always Cathy, go walk. Even
That's
if it's
nice.
for 10 minutes, it can be 2 minutes.
Just
You can't get in the
something.
car. Can't get in the car yet. Don't go in the car, because once you go in the car, you get sleepy. You're driving, say, no, let's go for a walk, and we always do that, and we go out to dinner, and we'll say, okay, what's close around here so we can go walk. We look around. If there's a place, even if we don't have to buy anything, we just go walk. Because we just ate, and I just think that's very good, because then you don't go to sleep with your stomach full and you're bloated.
Yeah, absolutely.
All those type of things. But you said something that I forgot to talk about. And for the people just tuned in to the YouGoin'Pro podcast, I have a very own Cathy Witt. She's a certified yoga instructor, Pilates, wellness and fitness coach. She is all of the all. She can do it all. She's been in this industry for over 30 years. 30 years. And so you just tuned in. We got Cathy Witt. And Cathy, we didn't talk about Pilates, and we're almost ending the show. Now, I almost
Yeah.
forgot.
Pilates is awesome because it started as rehab, right? It started as physical therapy back in Germany. Joe Pilates started using the beds that were in an internment camp. So he used the bed springs and he created the Pilates reformer. So he started rehabbing injured soldiers. So then he came to New York, he started working with injured dancers. So it really started as physical therapy, and then the dancers really liked it and they kind of progressed it along, and then it started becoming a workout for everybody. But it's great because it provides flexibility, but you're also working strength and flexibility at the same time, which is really how our body works. Like, our body doesn't work in a silo, it works all together. So your connective tissue is working with your muscles, and if something's off, your body's not going to function properly. So the Pilates really helps to get that all in alignment, for lack of a better word. But the Pilates reformer is the equipment that I have.
Okay.
And what's nice is if you think about like yoga or Pilates, because they're closely related, when you're doing like floor work or mat work, it's really hard because you're hauling your body all around, and if you're new to it, it can be quite difficult. But what's nice about the reformer is it helps you. It offers support and resistance. So you can build up your strength, but also have the support so until you get strong enough to kind of do it on your own.
Okay. So for someone like an athlete,
Yeah, I've worked with many athletes on the reformer. I'm sorry, guys, you have a hard time. Like if they're, especially if they're really muscular. I've worked with some ball players, and it's like moving bricks around because the flexibility is not there,
so it goes back
and
to what
they
we talked
find
about.
it. Yeah, they find it
Okay.
really difficult. It's a lot of core work. So if your core's not super strong, and that's where all the power. That's your powerhouse. That's where the power comes from. But the Pilates definitely will give you great results.
So you suggest that all athletes should do Pilates?
At least try it. Give it a try, especially if you don't like stretching, because the machine kind of helps you with that. We
That's
sneak it
some
in like you don't know what's happening and just sneak it in there.
that's some pretty intense workout Pilates. I have to say that. I have
Yeah,
never
yeah.
done Pilates. Never done Pilates.
You'll have to come and try
Oh,
it.
I'm just afraid to do it. I am
No, don't be
afraid.
afraid. I'll be nice. I promise. I'll be
I'm
nice.
afraid. I'm
Don't
afraid to
talk to
do.
my husband about it, though. I'm not nice when he does it.
I'm like, okay, Pilates. So, okay, let me just. We got a couple more questions. Question is this. All right, Pilates or weight lifting? What would you suggest?
It depends. What are you trying to accomplish?
Okay, so
And
we're trying to get stronger and quicker as an athlete.
okay, I definitely recommend Pilates because sometimes when you doing heavy weightlifting, you can get kind of bulky, but Pilates is going to give you like long, lean strength.
And so, how long should we do Pilates?
Well, the recommendation is twice a week.
Twice a
Like,
week?
why not? There's a lot of professional athletes now that are doing Pilates.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Twice a
Ball
week?
players, football players, basketball players.
So twice a week. How long in twice a week? Is it 30 minutes, an hour?
Usually the sessions are like 50 minutes to an hour.
Oh, so it's like a boot camp. It keeps going. It's you're
Yeah, yeah,
going.
yeah. It's just it's a regiment. Yeah, you wanna keep it going.
Phew. I don't know if I can keep it going, but I'll sure try. I
A
don't
lot of
know.
people love it. A lot of people get addicted to it.
I'm not saying I
It's,
just I've
I
never
always
done it.
tell, what's that?
I have never done it, so I don't even know.
Well, I always tell people you got to be ready for this work because it's different from anything you've ever done.
Okay, it's
And it's
different.
almost every exercise is a total body movement.
Mm.
So we're bringing everybody in. Like you think you're just working your quads, but you're working everything.
Okay, thank you for that. So
Sure.
that was really good. I mean, I'm encouraging, everyone to do something, whatever, instead of sitting at home doing anything, because your body is like a car. The more you maintain it, the more it can run better. And you put good gas in a good car, it runs better.
Sure.
You get the daily $3,000 mile checkup, get the oil change, it runs better. You put premium oil in it, it runs better. It's the same thing what we're talking about today. I mean, wellness, fitness, flexibility, meditation. And I have never interviewed anyone on a level like this ever. Never talked about this on a podcast. I never talked about
Oh, thanks.
Pilates.
I'm flattered. Thank you.
Never talked about Pilates, anything like this. This is educational for me and also for the listeners. But one more question. So, what would you say to encourage the parents far as teaching them to be a advocate instead of a what's the word? You know how some parents can be overbearing?
Like Little League parent is the term you're
Correct.
looking for, a Little League parent?
Yes, that's it. So how can you encourage the parents to be more of a advocate and then instead of a annoying when it
Yeah.
comes to getting their kids to that next level of fitness, flexibility, and wellness?
Yeah. you said something earlier about like you played baseball and then you weren't playing baseball anymore and you didn't know what to do. I really wish we would focus more on fitness in schools
Mm,
instead of team sports because not every kid is going to be able to be on a team or be good enough to be on a team, especially here in South Florida. It's very competitive, right? So I
right.
wish we would focus more on long-term fitness. So different things that we can teach kids at a young age that they can do their entire life. Things like tennis, swimming, even basketball you can play as an adult. There's a lot of leagues.
Correct.
That's a great sport. Soccer's great too because you're running around. Um, as far as the parents go, I'd say, expose another thing that's kind of tricky here in South Florida where it's so competitive. Kids play the same sport year round.
Ooh.
So then they develop overuse injuries. So I would recommend putting kids in a lot of different things. And I think like martial arts is great for kids when they're really young because it just teaches them control of self and of their bodies. And swimming's so good too because swimming can be the water can be very therapeutic and help if you have injuries. So I would just say take a look at what you're kind of charging your kid to do and make sure they have downtime that they're
Mm,
not that they're so overly scheduled because I see that a lot with kids. They go from one activity to the next and they have no time to like be a kid to
right.
just play and just goof off.
Right.
So
Right.
I know once they get to high school, it gets super competitive. But when they're younger, just kind of really try to expose them to a lot of different sports and make sure they're having fun and they like it.
Right, right. So, Libby, so this brings me to one more question. I was going to end it on this, but you just said something. So, tell the audience about your experience with your kids. How did you handle it, or
Well,
something that you've learned?
one story that I kind of wanted to bring to light when my son was 12 and he was a baseball player and he became an umpire for Little League for T-ball.
Okay.
So guess what? I had to go to the games with him for that because I want to make sure none of the parents in T-ball gave him a hard time. It's T-ball. So why are you giving my 12-year-old who's an umpire a hard time? Yeah, but we handled it here was, I never had my kids play travel ball. I know a lot of parents are probably going to cringe because it was just too much, and he didn't want to. He didn't want to play travel ball, so he
Right.
didn't do that. He played league ball, and then he played in middle school and high school because he wanted to.
Okay.
And then when he got in high school, he was invited by another parent to go out for football. So he liked that. He liked doing the football and the baseball. And, I always made sure he was stretching and doing whatever he'd listened to and agreed to. That
Mm-hmm.
was the older one. The younger one, both kids did martial arts when they were little. And they had swimming lessons. You have to have swimming lessons. So when the younger one hated baseball, probably because he had to go to all his older brother's games all the time. So he hated baseball. So that did not fly with him. He liked basketball. And as parents, we love basketball because it was inside and air conditioning. But when he got to high school, he didn't want to play.
Mm,
So we had to let him be. He wasn't competitive. I mean, he was good. He was a big guy. He's built like a football player.
right.
Not competitive. So he's continued playing league ball, but he didn't want to play in high school.
Okay.
So I think because my husband and I were athletes, we were
Right.
a little more receptive to what they
Correct.
wanted to do.
Yeah. And I think you bring more balance to the picture as a parent teaching your kids because you were already there before. And when you're
Hmm.
there before, you want to make sure that they do something they love, first and foremost. Second of all, you're going to be an advocate and not a fanatic, an advocate. And I said that because I have two kids as well. I'm sorry, three kids. I apologize. Two that played sports, one that didn't play sports. And it's
Hmm.
very important that the parents understand that wellness, flexibility, meditation, those are very important. And also physical fitness. And I said that because we talked about that earlier, because a lot of times parents just let these kids play. They're playing, but they're just playing. I mean, this is how I feel. When you're young, let them have fun. But, I'm competitive. I want to win. I don't go out there just to
Yeah,
lose. I'm not
yeah.
going out there just to lose. That's not going to happen. But
Sure.
I don't want to lose anything. I don't. I'm not a loser. Even if I do lose, I want to make sure that I gave it all I had. Gave it all
Right,
that I had.
try. Yeah, try your
So,
best.
that's one of my main things that I try to teach. But when you try to give kids trophies for just participating, that's not real life. That's just
Yeah, it
not real
sets them
life.
up for unrealistic expectation. I read
Right.
something once that when you go to work, nobody's giving you a trophy for showing up.
Right. They don't give you a trophy just for showing up. That's your job. That's what you're supposed to. That's
Yeah,
what you're here for.
yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. I mean, but we talked about so much, and I'm so happy that you have joined the show today. And you have any closing remarks you want to say to the athletes and the non-athletes, something that we might have missed? Because at the end of the day, I want to make sure they understand this at You Going Pro. One of my main things I try to get across everyone that listens that on this show, we want to develop proficiency. People say, what does that mean? Cathy, when you think of the word proficiency, what do you think about that word? What does that word proficiency mean to you?
Proficiency, to me, it means get out and do something, whatever that is, right? Give it your all.
Oh, that's exactly
Yeah,
what it
yeah,
is. So
yeah.
that's
Give
what
it
our
your
logo
all.
is. That's what my logo is for You Going Pro. People says, what does that mean? You Going Pro. You Going Pro means be the best in anything that you do. Give it your all, because you're not promised tomorrow. Today is an opportunity. Tomorrow is not promised. So that's why I developed You Going Pro, because I want to make sure you're not just a pro on the field. You're a pro in every aspect of your life. So
Yeah, yeah. So you can, at the end of the day, you can be proud.
be proud of yourself. So any closing remarks, Kathy, before I close out?
Just keep doing
Oh,
what you're doing. I love it. I think it's great. I think it's great. You're motivating people.
thank you, Kathy. I appreciate it. As we said earlier, this is the You Going Pro podcast. I had a very own veteran. She is a veteran in the line of work of wellness, fitness, Pilates, and yoga. We didn't even talk about yoga because of
We'll have to
time.
do that another time. We'll have to
Another
get all
time.
zen and talk about
But
yoga.
if you guys enjoy this show, please download it. We're looking forward to hearing back from you again. As I say every time, every day, do your best, because tomorrow is not promised to you. This is Coach Larry going off the air. We love you. Take care. Bye bye.